Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. Oh, this is very familiar, is it not, my partner? The times we have spent here, just being. If you're just listening to this, the first message of this time, in Kauai, in 2019, we have just arrived, the first day. We are steps away from a heiau. And I want to talk about that for just a moment. But the very land reeks with preciousness and history and teaching. And some of you in this entourage with me today have come here for one reason, and something else is going to happen. Sometimes within your own cellular structure there are messages that you don't even recognize yet. And they'll push and pull you to several places or to be with certain people. And there the sparks will happen, either of enlightenment or relationships or business. And it's happened to you. And some of you know that, even here. But this place, of all the places on the planet, speaks some of the loudest words to those who have been here before. And I speak now about other lifetimes. You sit in a precious place, especially this island. It is unique for several reasons that my partner will explain later to you. It is not like the other islands of this state of Hawaii. Not at all. But what about you? A moment ago, you stood in front of the heiau. And what you see there is rocks. Old. And whatever structure was there is gone. Now I'm going to call this channel and title it The Many Faces of the Ancestors. As you look upon the heiau, if you don't know what a heiau is, you think, well, it's a ruin of some kind with signs that say don't touch it. That means that the ruin is somehow special or protected or sacred to those who live here. So far, so good. You'd also say that something probably happened in the past to make it sacred and precious. And you'd be right. But it's ruined in that there are ruins. There is not much left. If any structures were there or walls were there, there isn't much there now, because time at the ocean takes its toll. So how old is it? Well, they'll tell you that it's the beginning of Hawaii and Hawaiians. Now, if you start to look at the history that is told to you of Hawaii, you'll know that that heiau has been here perhaps 1,000 years, maybe less, maybe more. But I'll tell you something. It's new. It's new. It represents that which happened with the Polynesians, who became the Hawaiians, and the culture that you learn is much more than 1,500 years old. Now that's a lot, especially at the ocean, and that's why it's in the shape it's in. It's precious because it was royalty. It's precious because it represents something that the Hawaiians want to keep, and they're correct. They're absolutely correct to do so. But I want to tell you something. There's very little here that truly represents the real ancestors. When a Hawaiian speaks of their ancestors and they speak highly of them, they represent that which came from Micronesia and Polynesia. That is the story of how the population occurred on these islands. Dear ones, that's their story. But my partner's also going to tell you another story later in the excursion. Because when all of those Polynesians got here, the first records of when they got here, they realized they weren't alone. That there were already structures, that there was already history. And although I won't give it away because I want his story to be profound for you, most of that which was already here was right here on this island. History before history before history. What if I told you there were several civilizations here before the Polynesians and the Micronesians arrived and said they were first? Here's the question. Whatever your race, wherever you've come from, whatever country you think is your own, you are aware, are you not, that your Akash is probably not necessarily that race or that country. The soul reincarnates all over the planet, old soul. And the big question is this: who are your ancestors? There is a bigger question in a moment I'm even going to give you. But the many faces of the ancestors is this: when a kahuna or a shaman talks about their ancestors, they're not talking about 1,500 years. They're talking approximately 30,000. They're talking about Lemurian presence, things that have not yet been proven, and yet the orality of the traditions and the mythology speak as one about what happened here. Did you know that there are indigenous all over the planet who know what happened here? Even without talking to one another, they know what happened here. I want to ask you, is it possible that through these thousands of years, old soul, you might have been here? And the only way you're going to know that is it's going to speak to you this day, tomorrow, the next day, in ways that only you will be able to interpret. The chills you will get, the remembrance of the hot breeze or the cool breeze or the sound in the trees, or how the land tends to speak to you, how that red earth comes together with the blue skies and the ocean sounds and says, welcome home. And if that occurs to you and you start to feel it and you resound to it, you know you were here. And if that's the case, dear ones, you are an ancestor. Are you getting this part? You may be your own ancestors. When the kahuna speaks of the ancestors and the help that she receives from them and the talk she gets from them, is it possible that your soul might be included in all of her healing and all of her wishes and all that she feels? Because the family reassembles in this energy in odd ways. And here you are, sitting on the beach next to a very sacred heiau, which is new. But the kahuna's ancestors, they're the ones that came before that and before that. And the chances are very high that many of you who would be drawn to this place at this time were here. And so the invitation for the entire trip, for the entire excursion, is to validate it. Is it or is it not so that you might have been here or you might feel something? My partner tells his story that when he was a small teenager, 14 years old, that he wept when he arrived. And that is because his Akash had already recognized the land, the energy, the feeling. And he couldn't control it. And dear ones, this was so long ago before Kryon. But it touched him in ways that he only now understands. It's the same thing that we're inviting you as adults to feel. Sometimes you have to be here a number of days before you're softened up enough to feel it. And what I mean by that is all of you will carry that business that you came from, the everyday life that you came from, the thoughts that are still whirling around in your mind. You're still really not there, not quite there, but you will be within 2 days. And you'll start to see things and recognize things, and the land may actually start to sing to you, and the breeze may have a song. And they all may tell you about times that were beautiful, as they are here, as they are now, and ask you to remember the peace, the joy, the learning, the profundity of you looking a little different when you were here. I tell you these things not just because you're here listening to a channeling. I tell you these things because of all of those who will ever come to be in a group on a Kryon gathering here on this island. There are always those who have no idea what they're in for. Some of them will even turn around, go home, and come back and live here. Guaranteed. Happens every time. Because they know it and they feel it, and this is what they've been waiting for. And if you don't feel it that strongly, I ask you to feel it with each other. That there may be things here for one another that you didn't expect. That happens when like-minded, benevolent, compassionate people come together with purpose at this place. There's always sparks. There's always purpose. I want you to relax into the day, into the energy, into the information. Take a deep breath. Understand what I'm saying. There may be more here than would ever meet the eye, besides the beauty. So be circumspect and esoteric, and let it happen if it's to be so. And understand that Akash of yours may want to speak to you in ways it never has before, just to say to you, there's something more you should know about who you are, where you've been, what you've done, that makes you even more magnificent than you thought you were. Blessed is this group, this day, this time, in this place. A magical place where there's a great deal of mystery even still. And one of them is how in the world you can be here standing on a mountaintop. That's a puzzle. I'll tell you more about that later. And so it is. Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. This is the second channeling from the island of Kauai. And we come to you from a place that is famous on Kauai. And it's called the Fern Grotto. You might think that the fame here would come from the royalty that traveled the river, from the kings and the queens of a past Hawaii, which spent time here privately, and only they, the Li'i, could come. But that's not what we are going to discuss. Instead, we discuss something even more profound. The energy of this place has not been set by the ancestors or the royalty. You see, for the last 80 years, there was a tradition. And the tradition is this, that from all over the world, lovers would come here to marry, to say their vows, or just be together. And they would hear a song that wasn't even written by a Hawaiian, but became the song to sing right here. And so the rocks and the ferns and the dirt have heard this song for over 80 years, many times a day, through all kinds of weather, they would come. And the song was a song of unity. It was a song they expected to have sung first. Some would marry, some would simply look at each other because of the lyrics of this song and the oneness that it talked about in the spirit of aloha. I want my partner's partner to step up for a moment and read these lyrics so you can hear them.
This is the moment I've waited for. I can hear my heart singing. Soon, bells will be ringing. This is the moment of sweet aloha. I will love you longer than forever. Promise me that you will never leave me. Here and now, dear, all my love, I vow, dear, promise me that you will leave me never. I will love you longer than forever. Now that we are one, clouds won't hide the sun. Blue skies of Hawaii smile on this, our wedding day. I do love you with all my heart.
It starts with, "This is the moment I have been waiting for." I want to talk esoterically about the pure, magnificent, amazing love of God that has created with you a soul. Most of the planet understands the word soul. It has become so synonymous with a life force, with something that's even beyond a human being. So much has it got into that which is the way of the vocabulary of the planet, that even those who are nautical, those who sail the ocean, will describe the number on board as souls on board. Not even humans, not men or women, souls. The soul is something that is so complete that it cannot be then even doubted. There is a creator, dear ones, who knows your name, who loves you. While you stand here, those among the group here, I want you to understand, as you stand upon the wood looking at the grotto, there is a soul in you that the creator of the universe put there. And it wasn't so that you can come here and suffer. It was so that you could come here and by free choice meet something that was so astonishing that even to this day there is controversy about what it is. Those who are esoteric would call this something, the higher self. In so many belief systems, it is known by other names, but it is so much there and so alive. And what makes it mysterious is that it's you, the sacred you. So you become aware that there's a duality, perhaps. There's a human you, and then there's a sacred you. And what we have taught now for all of these 30 years is that as you walk through life, the task is to find the sacred you, to be synchronized in coherence with it, to understand that it's there so you would look for it. So let's talk about that soul that you have just for a moment, just for a moment. Can you imagine walking in a wilderness and having the one that would love you the most beyond any human on the planet, be around you, perhaps be following you in an invisible way, while you slogged through the energy, looking for something else, not being even aware that there was something so amazing as a part of you that would love you so much that if you could unify, it would change your life forever. Once you have the sparks of unification with the soul that is yours, it's forever. It is a forever unification because it changes the way you think, the way you act, the reality that is yours, all of those things. I want you to think for a moment on the energy that is right here where you sit and where you stand. What would the energy be for that song with those lyrics sung many times a day for 80 years here? Can you feel it? This is the place of unity. This is the place of lovers. Would it be too much of a stretch to say that when you meet that higher self of yours, you become lovers of a high caliber and a vibration because you continue to love one another, yourself? Loving yourself is not something that is vain. Loving yourself is an assurance that you're a piece of God, knowing who you are. You love yourself enough to know not to step into certain kinds of vibrations or dramas. You love yourself enough to have the wisdom because of the unity that you found, perhaps with the sparks, when you realize and recognize that lover who is you. You might know what's next. What if we had a little reunification? What if we had a little marriage between you and you? What if we had something that some of you say, well, I've done that. I'm here because of it. Well, what about a renewing of the vows? What about just saying, I recognize you, that which is put within me, which is the love of God for my entire life. Thank you for living with me. And if this is new to you, what about considering it's real? I want you to remember the words and the lyrics of that song. This is the moment I've waited for. This is the moment I've waited for. Right now, I want you to consider you're standing alone in this beautiful place that resounds with this love song, this wedding, this unification. It's bounced off the walls so many times, the dirt is probably tired of it. But it resounds with emotion. I can't tell you how many have wept openly in this place because they were so in love, or they watched others who were so in love. Unify in a way that makes your heart soft and makes you perhaps hope that it could happen to you, and for some it has. For all of you here, even listening, why don't we do this? And so an angel stands before you and asks you the questions, the will I, the won't I. And there's no real vows or rules. There is only a oneness that the angel asks. Would you unite with that which is yours and has been forever that you've now found? Would you deny any of this? Could you? Because this is your legacy, old soul, to eventually meet your higher self, marry your higher self, and be with that marriage which will create compassion and peace on this planet. And when the angel says, will you, and asks for, I will, what is the answer? And the answer is yes. And the answer is yes. This is the moment I've waited for. Can you put upon that scenario, which is esoteric, the same kind of feelings you would put upon two humans in love? And if you can do that, you'll understand a little more of why, for 30 years, I have asked you to fall in love with yourself. There's a moment when two humans look at one another in love and they both think each other is magnificent. That is what we are speaking of, because you are. But it doesn't go away over time, not with your higher self, dear ones, it increases. And day after day you realize that this is a union, not just with a higher entity that is you, but of God, but of spirit, but of nature. How many of you have looked upon this Isle of Kauai and have seen more than the green? You've heard more than the water or the wind. And you realize that within this island itself, there's teaching. And if the island could speak to you right now, it would say, know this, that there is love here. And if you could ask the rocks right now, what is it they want? They would say, please don't sing the song again. We honor the rocks, and will not. You know what we've done. This is the message in this place for this day. And so it is.
You are standing in the water. You just went through purification, cleansing or forgiveness with Kahuna Kalei. Feel the breath and the water of the oceans loving you. The cells of your body, all of them melding with the water that you are standing in. How deep that your love goes into Gaia right now through your feet, and how deep Gaia's love to you goes from your feet into your heart. Feel that love expanding both ways, in a oneness, in a unification. Feel that love expanding both ways, in oneness, in unification. Breathe. Anchor yourself deeper into the heart of Gaia right now. You are in Lemuria. You are in your home, your original home, your ancestors' home. This is where everything began. Can you feel that? Can you feel your Akashic memory rising up from the earth of Gaia here, from the grid here, from the crystalline grid here, reconnecting, remembering, reunifying with you now. Bringing all those gifts and all this knowledge that is held within you, within your crystalline grid that is in your body and your light body, your Merkava. Breathe. Go deeper in the power that exists within you. You are your own ancestor. All the answers are truly within you. Breathe. And give thanks for yourself. Give gratitude, appreciation, compassion, light, radiance of your heart, magnificence of your being. Give it all to yourself. Take it all in. Take all that love and All they want to teach you, all this journey, is how to love yourself even more, how to appreciate yourself even more. Through all that you went through in this lifetime and the thousands of others, learning how to love yourself even more. For there is no beginning, and there is no end to your love and your journey. You are an eternal soul. You are an eternal soul in oneness with everything else.
Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. There are literally thousands who would tune in to this channel after the fact, and so I give this for them. We are on a beach in Kauai. And the attendees are standing with their arms outstretched to the ocean, and you might even hear the ocean and the wind as we are in a public place. The ceremony is called Auaukai. It is a water purification ceremony. It's ancient, beautiful. It's honoring of both the human spirit and the soul, and also the land, the ancients. And so we have done it now 2 times. This is a message that perhaps you didn't expect. And it's about water. It's not that long, but I believe the message today is profound and metaphoric. Dear ones, of course, water has always been seen as that would be part of a cleansing, a washing, a renewal. Not just to the ancients of this island, but all through the mythology of spirituality. And to this day, if you take a look at the spiritual systems around you, water always plays the part. Whether you are baptizing, or perhaps you are in India and you are submersing yourself to clear the karma and create nirvana. So water becomes a vehicle, an element that is seen as something that is beautiful, pure, clean, and needed for the spiritual journey. Now they say that the world, as you know it, the earth, is made mostly of water, and they're correct. But there's something I want to present to you that you may never have thought of. The human body, they say, is also, like the earth, made up of water. And they will say perhaps over 90% of you who listen and are here is made up of water. Now the percentage may not be exactly correct, but the concept is, you, as you walk around, are mostly water. This is so profoundly known by the esoterics that long ago they decided that because of this, the human body itself is susceptible to tides. That the moon would pull upon the body as it does upon the ocean. Some would even say that the biocircadian rhythms and perhaps the time cycles of humans are often impacted by the tides of water in the human body. Some would even say the full moon reacts on humanity because of this, and that when the full moon is there and the tides pull upon the waters of the planet, they pull upon the waters inside, and it changes your personality. So with this concept, it is well understood and known, you have water, perhaps your own ocean, inside you. Now I want you to turn the page for a moment, which is a metaphor for going to another subject. The kahuna who sits next to me has echoed for years a Kryon saying. And the Kryon saying is, you were born magnificent. You are magnificent. Sometimes there will be chants, and we ask you to repeat them. I am magnificent. In order to understand for the human psyche that there is purity within, and that is the God inside. Let me broach something metaphorically. Wouldn't it be something if you did a reverse au kai? And so as you went into the water, your purity then purified the oceans of the world. That if you had that which was magnificence already and the purity of God inside, to wherever you touched other things that were water, they would then change. Reverse au kai. That is the metaphor we have been teaching for 30 years. And the metaphor is this: that the light worker who has this energy, the spark of magnificence, will then touch anything and it will be affected by their magnificence. The reverse au kai, as they walk around the planet, they are doing a ceremony where whatever they do and whatever they touch has an impact on others through consciousness, the water of consciousness. If you looked at the planet as all water-related consciousness, that's a metaphor, and you were pure, you would walk around doing a reverse au kai. Wherever you went, the water of consciousness would then be purified and changed because you are magnificent. For those here in this closing moment of this ceremony, I want you to gaze upon the ocean one more time. And I want you to think of this. The ocean represents the rest of time. The ocean never stops. Neither does consciousness. Your impact on the planet, dear ones, in this new energy, can change every drop of water in the ocean. The ocean of consciousness on the planet will be affected by what you do next. It's beautiful. It's magnificent. It's worthy of who you are. This is the message brought to you today by the ancients of this place who taught this very thing thousands of years ago on the very dirt you stand on, called Lemuria. And greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. There are so many who would ask, why do you come to a Hindu temple on Kauai? There are thousands who will hear this particular message, beyond those who sit in front of me on this beautiful day on Kauai. And the answer is because the core truth of Lemuria is here. The founder of this temple, a giant in Hinduism, adored by millions, called it correctly when he saw the truth of not only what he believed, but also more. He envisioned something, a connection, that would bring this temple here to honor Pleiadian energy, Lemurian energy, and the fact that we came from the stars. There are very few places on earth that will tie these things together like this one. I want to tell you something, as long as we're here, about that which we have just seen, which is the Hindu master. if you look into the eyes of that man or his devotees, and you say to him, I'm a Christian, he will smile and congratulate you for your choice and tell you you're in the right place at the right time. He will shake your hand and mean it. He will not evangelize you. He will not tell you that you're wrong. And this is what we have always taught, that there are levels of enlightenment for all, and graduation, inevitably, is where you come to that which we've called the spark, or the explosion to enlightenment. And some of you are at the cusp. Because you are here, you start to understand not just esoteric things, but things which are above that which is in 3D. Things which you must trust are there because the God inside you is about to show and tell and be something greater than simply a human being. There was a time, dear ones, when you were on this planet, and we've told you this before, when you were in teaching and learning, and there was a clearness and an understanding. You can see it in civilizations all over the planet that have devolved. And one of them, recently we were in and we told you that the ancient beginning dynasties of Egypt understood core truth. And you could see it on the walls. In fact, you can see some of the principles that were taught right here a moment ago from the Hindu master. Truth is truth, and the shades of it are the school of learning. And in this, I tell you yet again, you are in an age now, an age that has even been named this day by the Hindu master, that would speak of an evolvement that is going on, that we call the shift, where light is starting to come in certain ways that will affect everything you do. And the whole reason I am here and teaching is to prepare you for that. It is tough to come up against that which is darkness that has been here for so long. It is tough to go against the grain of the kinds of things that human have done with human forever. And we've spoken about it. We've spoken about some of the most corrupt things starting to have light. And that is to say that you're able to see them. You heard this today, even from the Swami. The Swami even mentioned that there's still a kind of slavery on the planet, even though the basic kind perhaps has been outlawed for years. There is still the one we say is coming into revelation. And that is the slavery of children for sex. And that this will be revealed to such a way, and the scope of it will be shameful. And who is funding it will be shameful. And it's coming. And when it does, there are those who will say the earth is doomed because it's so bad and so awful and so corrupt, never understanding it's been with you for 1,000 years. Light is coming, and in the process, old soul, we need you to put on the mantle, to put on the armor of a light worker. Because you are going to be the ones who are karmically prepared for the next lesson. And whether you're here, or whether you're coming, whether it's the next lifetime we are speaking about or this, it doesn't matter. Your one soul will simply go through the lessons, but this one is different. For now you're going to come into that which has been expected in an evolved earth and an evolved time, where you will actually start saying, I have God inside. Question today, even to the Swami, where is God? And I have said it over and over, and it's the same thing the Swami said. Look around. In every leaf, in every molecule, in every consciousness is God. Hinduism, the first organized spiritual system on the planet. And the intuition of humanity at that time, without anybody teaching anything else, or rules, or prophets, was that you incarnate. That was intuitive, and it still is. More than a fifth of the world population still believes, and will continue to, in incarnation. And reincarnation is the staple. So it is not new, dear ones. I want to leave you with this. There is something here that has been unspoken this day, except in this way. I want you to understand what is around you even as you sit here, the beauty of the planet. And I want you to understand that whether you were a Hindu or a Buddhist or any of these beginning systems, the earth was always included. The elementals were always included as a partnership of life with you. Consciousness cannot exist without the partner earth, which also has consciousness of its own. We've invited you to feel it here. For this would be a place where you could see the devas and understand the elementals and feel it from the heart and know that this all went so completely wrong. Tell me one main religion today where the earth is your partner. It's been dropped completely. But if you go to an indigenous, it's there completely. This will change. I told you long ago that there would come a day when the religions of the planets would see eye to eye, and it's exactly the same thing as the Swami told you today. Those are the words. And perhaps that their prophets would not necessarily meld into one, but what they would see would be allowing, an enablement, so that they'd all exist together. So that one would point to the other and say, we understand that my God is your God, and that you have a slightly different way of worshiping in a slightly different temple, and we'll come together and celebrate it and sing the songs. And we'll see eye to eye on that. We've told you that this is coming someday. But with it, dear ones, is coming something else, a return to the understanding that the earth is your partner and Gaia, Pachamama, is coming. The love of the earth must be part of what you believe. In a moment, you're going to walk the grounds of this place. You're going to view the temple, which is created, because that's what humans like and do and have for the excitement of what you would call the enlightenment place they want to put things. It's appropriate, all of it, for now. But as you walk these grounds, I want you to see what they have done here. It's an honoring of Gaia, the things they are growing, and how they approach life is a partnership with the planet. It's not new, dear ones. It's not quaint, dear ones. It's what's coming. A return to the core truth taught in this place, even from the Star Mothers. Swami said there was very little activity here before 1,000 years or so. And what he's saying is there was no human like a human today. But there was activity. Those little menahunis that hold up the temple, talk to them a little bit about who they might have been and how long they've been here and what it means in the scheme of metaphors of Lemuria. let the tour continue in this magical place, this Hindu temple on Kauai. And so it is.